What's up, party people? Welcome back to a very special episode of Party XP. I'm your host, Jeff, and joined with me always is Lacan. Say hi, Lacan.
What's up, everybody? 2 years!
Yep,
2 years, baby!
We made it 2 years throughout childbirth, sicknesses, whatever else going on in our lives. This is it. Finally, our 2nd year anniversary. So we have a very fun, special little episode here for you. It's more glazing about ourselves, but... I think you might enjoy it. I think you might have a good time going down memory lane, right?
Yeah.
So, our first anniversary, we did our favorite games. This year, we're going to do our favorite systems of all time. You know, I think if you've listened to the show enough, you kind of know what we're into here. But I think it'll be nice to put the facts to paper here and give people a list to rip apart, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, they clearly can hear our biases, right? Our preferences for our consoles. But this is also a definitive list of our own personal things, and it's never wrong. So everyone else can shut up and not complain about it.
Exactly.
But yeah, it'll just be we tried our best to make it happen in person. Unfortunately, things are very busy on both of our ends, and but you know we're still cool with recording in person. We still enjoy doing this show. Right after 2 years, we're not officially tired of each other yet.
No. Nope.
Good to hear. You know, right? Good to know that I haven't lost a friend yet.
Nope, not yet.
Yeah, but this will be fun. Again, like last year was kind of like more of like a deep dive and almost kind of see like our experiences and almost kind of see a bit of our gaming personalities, right? And how our tastes have changed throughout our lives. This one, I think, is gonna be more of like a cemented, like, okay, this is what we like and why we like them.
Exactly. Sorry, if I just like cut out sometimes, I have to go to the allergist tomorrow and I haven't been on my meds for a few days. So, you know, I'm struggling on top of everything else going on in my life. So just bear with me, please.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
I know.
We'll take care of it in post.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have any like OLIs, or are you just have a top 5?
I've got 2 honorable mentions. Or
yeah, so I have a few outside looking ins here.
That, I guess.
Yeah, so you want to do your first honorable mention?
My first honorable mention is the PS1.
Okay.
It was hard for me to confirm if this is going to be on the list or not.
Yeah.
The PS1, I still love the console. We've had like 2 of them growing up, and now I have 2 again now as an adult. I bought the PS1, like the slim version, and I still have a PSX that still works. I had the most games on this console growing up. Many of which were bootlegs when we'd go to the Philippines.
Hell yeah.
But, you know, but some bangers on this console, right? Like Mega Man Legends 1 and 2, Metal Gear Solid, Marvel vs. Street Fighter, like DBZ Final Bout. We've both talked about how much we like that game and how not good it is, but it is very fun still. And Ultimate Battle 22, same with that one. My top game of all time, right? Legend of Dragoon is on that console. Tekken 3, Crash Bandicoot games, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, which just basically shaped my music taste, you know, growing up.
Hell yeah.
Resident Evil / Dino Crisis, Siphon Filter, you know, Ape Escape, Tenchu. Like there's a lot of games on there that I remember dumping a lot of time into. Oh, and the original Time Crisis is on there too. You know, which, you know, kind of cemented my love of like light gun games, because, you know, being able to have an arcade game experience at home was a massive thing for me. And a lot of the games that I played on this console were quote unquote mature games, but I didn't experience them because I was still kind of a kid when I was playing a lot of these games. And I think like that's kind of like why I kind of got knocked down as well too, because I wasn't able to like properly appreciate these games until I was older. But like in terms of like just like hours spent on this console, probably the most, if not the second most, like I've ever played like one of the consoles growing up. I don't know if there's a thing with any of the consoles, but do you remember like you can play bootleg discs or like because I think the PS1 was region locked, right?
Yes.
So there was a way to play it like by putting like an American disc in first, and like popping the lid open, holding the little button to keep the thing spinning. There's like a little nubbin that like pushes down essentially like a button to make the disc reader spin, and then you can swap it out once it's essentially confirmed. Oh, this is a PlayStation disc. Pop it out, put the actual game you want to play in afterwards as well too. There's a lot of jerry-rig trips as well with the PS1.
Yeah, but you had the jailbroken one, right? Like the Filipino one.
The Filipino one, yes, but then eventually when I think that one got stolen.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then the stolen one is in like Gabe gave it to one of his friends, and he just made off with it.
That
to
sucks.
like borrow kind of thing, and just never gave it back. So we had to use the American one, and then I think that one eventually broke because it fell off of like the table we had it playing on at one point. Like someone didn't see the wire,
Right, right, right.
and then it just took a tumble. So, but for a while when we were using that one, we had to do like the little disc reader trick for to play any of our bootleg games from the Philippines.
Yeah, I still remember the day I got my PS1. I remember walking to the car with Tekken 3 in my hand. But for whatever reason, I don't know, it just missed my OLI. I do have fond memories of it. I do really love it.
Mm.
It's not to say that there's no Sony systems on my list, but it barely just missed out for me.
Yeah, like again, I had to like argue with myself: am I putting it on the list itself, or am I gonna knock it just barely off? You know what I mean, kind of thing. I thought it was always gonna be easy for me to just throw 5 consoles up there, but I was like,
Yep.
oh,
No, it's
never
hard.
mind. Have to argue a little bit,
Especially
with
when
myself.
you've owned all of them, basically.
Yeah, when we've talked about it before, but you and I own a good chunk of the consoles, right? We own a majority of them. I missed out a little bit on like the Sega
Same.
additional systems, like like the X32 and the
Yeah,
Saturn.
32X, the CD, the Saturn, right?
Yeah,
All
I had the OG Genesis, but that was like
Right.
about it for me. I will say like we got most of like the main consoles.
Mm-hmm.
And what about you then for your first one?
Speaking of Sega, so my first OLI is the Dreamcast.
Okay.
Again, it's just like this magical system that burned so brightly in the sky and then fizzled out. It has, the full crop of like fighting games and the Sonic games, obviously.
Yeah.
The 2K series started here. There's a ton of other, just non-fighting, non-sports games that populate this machine. It's just everything about this machine is so magical, and I love this thing. But it has to be an OLI because I didn't own one until I was an adult, and I hate the controller. So it has to be OLI. But that doesn't mean it's still not important to me. We grew up with it, obviously, but I never owned one until I was an adult. But it is truly one of those magical systems that it's one of the only systems I have in my apartment with me.
Okay.
So you go figure, like that's how much this thing means to me. I love it. So, but it's not quite to the level of these other systems.
I get you. I was also a late adopter of the Dreamcast.
Mhm.
Didn't have one as well until I was an adult. My brother got one, I think, from a garage sale. I think it was, or some sort of private sale. I know he didn't buy it.
Yeah.
Like we didn't buy it when either of us were working at GameStop, or when it was still out and available, for retail. It was definitely like a secondhand sale / post life cycle sale.
Yeah, I bought mine at a flea market.
Oh, there you go. So there,
And
that's
they,
where you find it.
The seller jerry rigged it so that the button to eject the top was like closed, but the button was jammed. So I had to play with. I used to play it with like an arbiter statue on top of it. Until I finally got in there and unjammed the eject button, and now the eject button works again.
Again, I just wish I was an earlier adopter of the Dreamcast. I know people love that console, and it's very remembered fondly, right, in retrospect. But I didn't experience it enough to put it on my list.
Right, for sure. So here's another one that I think might be on your list somewhere, but I kind of just lumped them all together because I just feel like I could have, and it's like the Game Boys.
Okay.
Like the original Game Boy, the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Advance. Kind of just could all kind of bundle them together. But obviously, for handheld gaming to be a thing in our lifetime, especially in like the early days, was revolutionary. I traveled every week, to see family and like a good Italian boy. So the Game Boy was like invaluable for me going places, right? And that's where, of course, you have Pokemon, you had Dr. Mario. That's where I played Dr. Mario and Tetris. That's where I played, we talked about Wario Land. We talked about, a ton of other games. Obviously, the Pokemon games kind of reigned supreme there, but there were a lot of other really great titles throughout all 3 of the Game Boy series. And for me, like, they're not quite there, but I did spend a lot of time with these games.
Yeah.
And the systems.
Yeah, absolutely. It didn't make it on my list, actually, surprisingly. Even for the honorable mentions.
Mm-hmm.
I did spend a lot of time with the Game Boy Advance specifically. I remember that.
Yep.
The Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Pocket, whatever you want to call them, right? I only played Pokemon, right? And that was probably it. Maybe a couple of other games. I remember we had like this little penguin puzzle game
Mm-hmm.
which was actually really fun. Actually, I used to plug games into the SNES converter.
Hell yeah, the Super Game Boy.
Yeah, yeah. So like that's where I guess I would play a lot of those, but for the most part, there were a lot of those games were kind of like, uh, not like junk titles, but definitely like I played mostly like Pokemon, and then like later on I would get like the Pokemon puzzle game right on the Game Boy Color,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to think like what else did I really play on the Game Boy itself, but like Super Mario Land 1 and 2.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I played
The golden
those.
coins.
Yeah, so I played those, and it's like there was a lot of like a lot of repetitive gameplay for a lot of those, but that's kind of the point, right? Because it's like small, you can kind of just pop it in, play it for a little bit, and then kind of go about your day again.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from like Pokemon and maybe like that's really about it for me on the Game Boy. But the Game Boy Advance, I spent a lot of time on because I got like the Advance Wars games, Golden Sun, the original Golden Sun, and then the Lost Age. I think it was the second one.
Sure. I never played them, man. I don't know.
I like the Golden Suns. They were very fun, simple RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
A little hard to remember where it's an OG RPG. So like if you lose yourself, you kind of have to start over because you have no idea where the hell to go. But like what else is it? Like my first Rhythm Heaven was on the Game Boy Advance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I had more on the Game Boy Advance than I had on the Game Boy Color. But yeah, in terms of like that's when I started getting like really into the experiences on like playing like the Game Boy Advance, Game Boy SP, and that's when I really started focusing on that more as like a travel device. Because we took road trips a lot. We had to go to church every Sunday and like Wednesday or Thursday, right? So like it was just like during the drive, you're trying to play Pokemon through Streetlight.
Right, exactly. Unless you had the whole shebang, the Transformer thing that went on your system,
which
and that never really worked.
It didn't really, but I think I had it. I don't recall if Gabe did, but I had like the screen magnifier, the light, and then like the button extender. I think honestly, I just used the light for the most part. Like the button extender was kind of made it more comfortable, but I was a kid, so I didn't have massive hands anyway.
Right.
But
no,
like
same here.
But the light was like invaluable. You know what I mean? Like that was like we found one of those at like Target or I don't know, like West Coast Video or Funko Land, right? And I was like, oh hey, like Mom, Dad, I need this, please.
Yes.
So I don't have to play a RPG or even a platforming game. 1 second at a time at like 5-second intervals.
Please, God.
Yeah, but I've got a slightly adjacent for my second honorable mention, actually.
Okay.
Also handheld, the Nintendo 2/3DS.
Okay.
And I tried to section off. I tried to make it so that like most consoles wouldn't have the backwards compatibility as like a thing. You know what I mean? Because if that's the case, then it's like it just makes it like one console kind of just does both. But the 2 and 3DS do play the DS games as well. I think it's like a refined DS experience, right? The home screen itself.
Yes.
More expansive, not as like slow because you don't have to go one block at a time. The wireless / online play was actually pretty solid, like surprisingly solid. I remember playing Smash 4 on there, right? Because it came out on the 3DS first before coming out on the Wii U. So I had the 2DS. I had the big old slab.
Yes.
Which initially I got made fun of for it, but it was like $60 when I got it. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy that, and I don't care about 3D anyway. Also, it's super comfortable. Like it's super comfortable. I think it probably is still more comfortable than the actual 3DS itself. Because I have a 2DS XL, and which is basically the same dimensions as a 3DS XL. But yeah, like the slab feels very comfortable in hand. A lot of really good games in there. Like there's the Kirby game on there. Planet Robobot is on there. I got to experience like a lot of like the online digital download games, right? I think that's when I started really focusing on like digital download games, like and having availability to my console. Very easy to hack. That's a big deal for me. I have a modded 2DS. I modded my 2DS. I left my new 2DS XL unhacked, just because just in case there's any issues with trying to play stuff. And I think this is the first time I experienced quote unquote true console quality games in a handheld. Yeah, I played the Xenoblade games right on here. Because that was on Wii U, right? Initially, I think it was.
I think so. Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, the overall library is slightly lacking in comparison to like the DS, in my opinion. Anyway, like in terms of games that I found and I really really enjoyed. I know there were like a lot of big like Pokemon games that were on the 3DS, but I at that point I did not care about Pokemon. Like my last Pokemon game that I played was Diamond and Pearl, and I believe that was on the DS.
Yes, it was.
So there we go. And like at that point, I kind of stopped caring about Pokemon personally. At least the games, right? I like the Pokemon because they're cute designs and stuff like that. But other than that, I kind of stopped playing. And I know that a lot of those big games, these Pokemon games are big on the 3DS specifically.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, that was kind of like the killer app for the thing. But there were a lot of other fun games. You know, I didn't spend as much time with it as I wish I did. But especially like the DS and the 3DS, I mean, the Project Cross Zone games, the Capcom, Sega, Namco crossover.
Yeah, I've got the
action RPG.
I got both the Cross Zone games as well.
It was really sick. Just trying to think of a few others on 3DS specifically. But you talked about Smash. You talked about Pokemon. You talked about the Mario games. I mean, Mario Land 3D was 3D really awesome.
That was really good, and I really enjoyed that. And that's kind of what brought me to the Wii U version of it, which was just more, right? Because I think, if I remember correctly, it came out on the 3DS first. Then another game came. It was like not a sequel, but it's like, okay, if people like this, we're gonna expand it more and do more of it on the Wii U.
That was New Super Mario Brothers 2 with the coins where you have to collect a ton of coins.
Yeah. So they brought that out, and then the 3D one as well too. Same thing happened, I think, where 3D World came out initially on the 3DS first, and then eventually came onto the Wii U, where like they had the player on the touchpad can like create platforms and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it was really cool where they had like experimental games where, hey, we have an idea, we're gonna try it out on here first, and if it goes well, we'll port it over to the main console. And again, like the handheld, like, you know, again, we're having like, you know, close to true console quality games in a handheld, I think, in the 3DS era.
Definitely. And so I agree. I thought the 3DS was awesome. I just wish I spent more time with it. I had a bit more of like a fond memory of it so that I could have made this list, but it just missed.
Yeah, and you know, I was gonna say some of the ports also were very good on it, right? Like we had Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, both on the 3DS, and they fixed a couple of the issues. You know, changed things up a little bit, but you know, kind of having that second screen was great in terms of like, you know, managing inventory and remembering where the hell you were. That was a big deal. But you know, I can't just say the ports are specifically like a thing, right? Because the DS also has like ports, and there's a reason why I kind of like kept it separately from the 2DS specifically the 2DS and 3DS experience.
Definitely. So I have two more here. I wanted to shout out PC gaming because it's not technically a console, but it's a platform, and it's a platform that influenced me greatly throughout even like my younger years playing like old MS-DOS games and you know, all those educational-esque kind of games through, obviously, we talked about my addiction to Warcraft and World of Warcraft and all of those other sorts of RTS games and things like that, and to today, where that's basically the only place I play games outside of the Switch. And the phone, of course.
Yeah.
So I just had to shout out PC gaming. It's something that, like I said, I wouldn't consider it a console, just like I didn't consider a mouse and keyboard a controller, but I'm sure we'll have something else to say about this later.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I remember during the controller episode, I got a little bit of heat for the cop out, right? With the mouse and keyboard. To be fair, I still prefer playing most of my games with mouse and keyboard. But this was my 0.5. I remember I said I did 2.5 technically for my honorable mentions. The Steam Deck.
Okay.
The Steam Deck is the closest to a console-like experience, you know, while having access to all of my PC games.
Yeah.
Right? I can still use it as a PC, right? I can put it onto a dock, attach a mouse and keyboard to it, but it is a very streamlined experience, right? Steam has done a very good job with big picture mode to make it so that you just go in there, you launch your games. This is where you have your tabs and like, okay, here's your games, here's some of the social media stuff around it, the community, the store page, right? Or you know, or the Sony storage, if you want to call it that as well too, right? Where it's kind of like, okay, everything's here at your fingertips. Go ahead and move around where you want, or just start playing your games. So this is my 0.5. I know that it's still technically a PC, but in terms of experience of playing on it and like kind of maneuvering the unit itself, it is very much so a console experience compared to a PC.
Yeah, I'm getting to it. Right, I've been getting to a a Steam Deck at some point here. It's just been a little difficult. And, as we move into a gaming future where you're not getting certain games on Xbox One and PS4 anymore, I'm going to want to upgrade to a new console here.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of games that are coming out that aren't going to be on PC, but will require a new console. So, I mean, like the Steam Deck's going to get there maybe one day eventually, kind of, sort of, but I do agree that it is really like a transcendental piece of hardware. I think it's awesome. I think people should get it if they play a lot of games.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for a lot of people who are mostly PC players, but also like want that kind of console experience, or to try to get somebody who is mostly a console player into the PC experience, because it is very pick up, put down for the most part, right? Or very easy to transition to. I mean, think about how much it's influenced in terms of like bringing out more of these PC handheld, right? The Asus ROG Ally, the Lenovo Legion Go, the MSI Claw.
And the Logitech one that I've been wavering on for like 2 years.
Yeah, and there's a bit between PC, cloud streaming, PC streaming software, console streaming software, right? Like having Game Pass or Steam Link or what's the PlayStation one, Remote Play. And even having those available to you in like a dedicated kind of handheld form is a big deal, right? Because like obviously you can do it with your phone right now, but it's still like, oh, it's your phone, right? You have to deal with touch controls. Or if you buy one of those backbone controllers, which I also have, it's like it's close, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for. Or plug in a mouse or not mouse, a controller directly to your phone, or use Bluetooth, right? You're still dealing with a little bit of like it's like a barrier to entry, right? It's like, oh, I have to do things to play my games. You know what I mean? I just want to turn it on and start playing right away. That's why I think like having the dedicated PC handheld is such a nice experience for a person like me who mostly plays on PC, but also like to have access in a way to a lot of that stuff. Sure, some of it's kind of jerry-rigged, right? You have to work through running secondary programs because it's Linux. Certain things don't want to play nice together. But if you're savvy with like running and like looking up proper code and source stuff, you can do everything off of GitHub and just get things running. Or if you buy the Windows powered machines, those have dedicated apps to hook up to your consoles. And also a big thing again for the Steam Deck, it's cheaper. It's cheaper than all the other ones. So it's like, again, it's a lower barrier to entry to get people into the PC space, basically, for gaming.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's also a cool thing where if people don't want to go all in on a gaming PC, you can still enjoy the PC sort of gaming experience without actively owning a PC. I thought that was pretty cool. I have one more OLI.
Yep. Go for it.
And this one hurt, but it's number 6. It's the Nintendo GameCube.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that hurt. It hurt bad.
Yeah.
But my top 5 is kind of set in stone, and as much as I love this system, I spent so much time with it, I can't put it on the list if I spent more time with another system of the same generation.
That makes sense.
You know what I mean?
I get you. Yeah.
But I do love this system. Obviously, the first-party games are innumerable, right? Smash, Mario Sunshine, the Pokemon extended RPGs, Coliseum and XD,
Double Dash, Fire Emblem games were great on this console. The Resident Evil 4 initially came out on this console.
Yeah, and I think the other cool thing was that there were a lot of third-party games that played well on the GameCube. Obviously, we've talked Def Jam in the past. Those Def Jam games were seamless. Same thing with like the WWE games, Day of Reckoning, seamless going from Nintendo 64 to GameCube. This is where we kind of started playing sports games. This is where, this is the first system I played Capcom vs. SNK on.
Okay.
So for me, it was really like an awakening kind of experience for me. Soul Calibur 2, if you remember, was awesome.
This is the one that had Link on it. And that's
Yeah.
that was the best. That was the best version, by the
Yeah.
way. I don't. Spawn can go fuck himself, and Heihachi boo. Like
Right.
I did not care. You're telling me I can play fucking Link against fucking like Killick or some shit? Hell yeah, that's my shit.
Why would I use a guy that doesn't have a weapon in a game about weapons? I know Heihachi
Exactly.
is the weapon, but still.
Yeah, it's like you're at such a disadvantage just due to range at that
Right.
point. Fuck that.
No, yeah, and the other thing, like, I'm just thinking about it. Like, I don't think I've ever played this game on the original Xbox, which is funny.
I did play it, so just like a friend of mine had it, in because that was his main console.
Yep. We'll talk more about it later.
Yeah, but he played it because he wanted to play Spawn as well too.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
I like Necro.
Yeah,
I thought Necro
Necro was fun.
cool.
Necro was dope. But yeah, also like the Metroid, the original Metroid Prime 1 and 2 were on here as well too. You know, they got some like very serious like first party games on the GameCube, and they were very good. I didn't even have it on my list. I kind of I kind of broke it on my own rule. Unfortunately, I did for one thing. Remember I said before, I'm trying to keep games separate in terms of like backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
It kind of spoils at least one of the game consoles on my thing there.
I get it.
But yeah, it was hard for me to put it on there because again, same thing where it's like, yeah, I spent more time playing other consoles of the same generation, so it's kind of hard for me to put it on the list, and because of the fact that again it breaks my own rule, but it is backwards compatible with another upcoming console that'll be on my list.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your number 5?
Yeah, my number 5 is the SNES.
Okay.
So
We're gonna talk
a lot
about
of games
this later, but go on.
Yeah, okay. So a lot of games that I played solo or with Gabe growing up, like we played the Bomberman game a lot, Super Mario World, right? Yoshi's Island as well is on this console. Man, there's multiple Power Ranger games on here.
Yep.
A lot of games where you can argue that some of the games were better on this versus the Sega Genesis, and then obviously same the opposite way, right? Because of the censorship that Nintendo tends to do, especially back then with trying to keep their image clean. Specifically like blood, right, and hardcore violence and gore. But for the most part, in my opinion, I preferred the controller. You've heard me rant about me not liking the Genesis controller before. I like the controller. It's really comfy. I still use it to this day, at least a controller in the same form factor with the 8-bit dude SN30 Pro. Because it looks just like an SNES controller, but with 2 shoulder buttons or 4 shoulder buttons and joysticks on it, right? That's still a very comfortable form factor. This was, I think, the first game I experienced 4 players on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I remember one of my cousins or family. It's hard to tell with Filipino families,
of course.
but like everyone's at their Maracuya, but they had the multi-tap on their SNES. So that was my first experience of like, because Bomberman was a perfect example, right? Because you start with there's 4 characters on screen, but one player 2 will always start at like top left and bottom right or top right, right? But there's 4 of you. I'm like, I wonder whoever plays those other 2 CPUs, right?
Right.
There you go. That was my first experience. Like one of my cousins had one of the multi-taps. We had like a family party, right? The parents were watching like a fight or something. There was like a heavyweight fight going on or something. It was the 90s, so safe to assume.
Boxing was still relevant.
Massive. Yeah, and the revival of the heavyweight, kind of thing. And the kids were like, oh, well, we just want to play video games and not be around our parents the whole night.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, and I remember someone had the multi-tap. And we started playing like Bomberman or whatever. And then it happened again where, next year or whatever, we're like, oh, we're going to Tita Ruth's house. And we're like, oh, sweet. They're the ones with the SNES with the multi-tap. We're going to bring some of our games now. You know what I mean? Like games that we don't know, we can't confirm, but we think might have 4-player capability. So we started just bringing shit over. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, like the SNES, I like the Mega Man X games are on here. Right, I love the Mega Man series. I played a lot of them on the NES, but the X series was a very different take on it because it was very anime.
Yes, very anime.
The music slaps even harder. Yeah. All the Mega Man music basically rules, but the X games were they were special, man. The Power Ranger the movie I mentioned before. There was a lot of Power Rangers games on here, but like, there was the movie game. Yeah, there was another side scroller game. And the movie game had 2-player co-op. Versus the other one, which was a single-player side-scroller. And I think there was one knock against it, I will say, is because the final fight that was on NES, that came, the one that came out on both SNES and NES, the final fight on NES, I think, is actually better.
Yeah, there's a lot of games that are better on SNES, I feel like. I mean, we'll
Yeah.
talk more about it, like I said,
Yeah.
later. But
Still a pretty solid library. I still have a lot of the games that I have on here.
oh yeah,
What was the Maui Mallard? That's
yeah,
a game
Cold
you and I
Shadow.
both. Yeah, you and I both love that game. And also like I just told you, like I bought that Retron console so I can play my NES and my SNES games having like the cartridge inside of them. You know what I mean? Because I wanted to play them kind of like feeling like the old school way to do so. And I'll plug that into my TV in my room or plug it into the downstairs CRT that we've kept. You know what I mean? So like we can play some of these old retro games kind of the way they were meant to be played. And yeah, like honestly, like the experience still holds up to this day. For the way the SNES plays, the way the controller feels in hand, you know, it is very close now to what the modern controller is, right?
Mm-hmm.
D-pad, four face buttons, some shoulder buttons, and then just slap some, you know, thumbsticks on there. Then we're talking.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely love it. And like I said, we're gonna talk more about it later. So
Yeah, and just like you know, I think just because to list off some of the games that I really spent a lot of time on here with, the Donkey Country series, Super Mario World 1 and 2, Kirby's Dream Course, which I've talked about how much I love that game, A Link to the Past is on this console,
mm-hmm.
and then Killer Instinct.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and Chrono Trigger, one of the first like RPGs, like dedicated RPGs that I played. So there you go. That's kind of just some of the nostalgia games that I think of when I when I think of SNES.
For sure. Like I said, we're gonna talk extensively about Super Nintendo here later.
Yeah.
But so my number 5, oh here comes allergies.
Okay, all good.
Are the my number 5's the Xbox 360.
Whoa.
You talk about a system that you spent a lot of time with throughout a variety of games. I mean, I had a 360 from very early on. I mean, like I had like NCAA 05 was the game that came with my Xbox 360. So you talk about having this system for a super long time, almost over a decade.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Kind of the games that were on that system between just like the sports games, fighting games, shooters, you know, obviously Street Fighter 4 came out during the 360 era. The Maddens and 2Ks and NHL games that came out during that era factored pretty heavily into my life with their Halo. You talk Gears of War, factored in pretty heavily. And then other games like the Transformers games, the War for Cybertron.
Oh, those were solid, yeah.
Yeah, those were pretty sick. I played a ton of that. The Xbox arcade games, Marvel 2, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Remastered, the Doritos Collision Course or whatever it's called. That game was sick.
The Xbox 360 was like an indie machine before, you know, they were very big on pushing in smaller studio games.
Yeah.
Like Bastion came out on the Xbox 360.
Braid just celebrated an anniversary.
Super Meat Boy.
Yeah, Super Meat Boy. Just there was always something to play on 360, and you know it had unparalleled. The party system was unparalleled. The good old days when you can watch Netflix together and all of that. Just everything kind of combining into one. It's just I love that system, and I had to put it on this list. This was the one I was kind of like I gotta put it over the GameCube just because I spent so much more time with it, and it was in my life for quite a long time. So I gotta go 360 here. I have to. Oh, and the controller's awesome. This was like the first time the controller like took that next step into like the modern sort of layout, right?
Yeah, we talked about this on the favorite controller episode.
Yeah, and so I feel like this is kind of where that all started. I think it still had some revisions to go through to be truly at its like final form,
but it's pretty damn close.
Yeah, which I talked about in that controller episode. But yeah, this is where they started to figure it all out.
Yeah, I didn't put the 360 on mine, and I didn't put its competitor on mine either, the PS3,
because it has no games.
Well, calm down, first off. So, yeah, Metal Gear Solid 4, the Uncharted series, yeah, like the infamous games. Yeah, calm down, relax.
I'm just kidding. Calm down.
But that's the thing, right? I was the defender of the PS3 during that generation. Like, you know, even though it was technically a combined me and Gabe thing, eventually Gabe got a 360 and I didn't. I stuck on the PS3. But yeah, like I couldn't say the 360, even though I did have a lot of good times with the 360. Played a lot of Halo, a lot of Halo 3, a lot of Reach.
Oh yeah, a lot of Halo Reach.
A lot of Halo Reach. Gears 1, 2, 3. And we're gonna talk about.
Shout out the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games; those were really fun.
Oh, we spent a lot of time playing
And
those too.
Deadpool.
Yeah, I remember
Deadpool
us like Rock Band.
Oh, yeah, of course, the rhythm games.
Yeah, because I remember like we played like at Zach's place and my place, right? So we'd have different libraries or song libraries available on Rock Band because I had the PS3 in the living room and he had the 360.
Yeah.
So but. As much as there was like a lot of shared experiences on both of those consoles, the 360 does have like the experiences with like the friends for the most part, right? Like I play a lot of solo single player games on the PS3 because they having like The Last of Us back there was great for me, but having like the social system, which was, again, you're right, very very well done on the 360, the party chat specifically. It made it so easy to just be social on the console, right? And then they threw it away during the Xbox One.
Yep.
See, But yeah. But yeah, no, again, a lot of good times on the Xbox 360 as well. Left 4 Dead, that was a massive one. We literally had a whole episode dedicated to it. But yeah, like a lot of like very very easy for us to just be like, is anyone on? Oh, they are. Message them, invite them to a game, and we're going. Yeah, very fun experience with the 360 and the Xbox games at the time.
For sure. All right, you're number 5.
My number 4.
You're number 4.
My number 4 is the Nintendo DS.
Number 5 was the
SNES.
3DS, right?
The SNES was my number 5. So my number 4 is the original Nintendo DS.
Yeah.
Well, for me specifically, it was the DS Lite because I was not an early adopter. Because I was a broke high school kid. So.
Oh my God, I have the funniest story. You will remember this because you were there when I bought my DS.
Was I?
We went to the mall together, and I bought the red Mario Kart DS, the fat one.
Oh,
with you.
Yeah, you're right. I do remember that. That was because that came out 2004,
something like that.
Something like that.
We were at the arcade or whatever we were doing at the one mall, at whichever mall it was.
Menlo? Menlo had an arcade. Menlo. Yeah, there you go.
And I bought that Mario Kart DS with you there.
Yeah, I remember that now. That is like very like, I remember like seeing you have it in your hand, like having it in the box, and I was like, that's really cool. I wish I had money. So, like,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think it was around like my birthday or something.
It was a birthday present, right? Yeah, because I think like we met up with I met up with you and I was with you. Did we run together or no? Did we meet up?
I don't remember. I just remember you were there when I bought the system.
I think it might have been my mom was doing some shopping, and then I think like I was near the front door of the arcade, and you saw me.
Was it something like that? I don't remember. I don't remember if it was because I know we've done that, and I think this was like a you and me hung out. I don't remember. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway. So I do remember. Yeah. No. I do specifically remember just like seeing it in your hand as you were picking it up, and I remember being like, "That's really cool.
This is so funny." But yeah, no, we can gush on DS.
Yeah,
I love the DS.
I did not get the original DS. I got the DS Lite. Like, I want to say, like, because that came out like a year and a half, 2 years later.
Yeah, and it was nicer than the regular DS. And I remember looking at everybody like, fuck, I should have waited.
Well, because
this big fat thing with like a little dark screen, and everybody has like these slim, cool things with
the backlit screen.
Yeah, with a much brighter backlit screen, and it had a better speaker on it, and I'm like, fuck, mine's red.
But like, I think I got mine my junior year of high school because I think it was the same thing. It was like a birthday thing, like where I like, and even then I got a used one, and I'm not cool with it. I don't care. I just wanted the console. I didn't care if it was used or not. Unfortunately, I lost that one 2 years later at college. I was playing a concert, and I was on the shuttle back to the parking deck, and it fell out of my tux pants.
Oh no!
Because they have very slippery pockets.
Right. Yeah.
So it just fell out. I had my trumpet on me, my backpack, with my laptop and my schoolwork on it.
If you were gonna lose anything, at least you didn't lose the trumpet.
At least, yeah, exactly. That's an actual. But the DS Lite specifically for me, man, share multiplayer games with one cartridge.
Yo.
Change the fucking game, dude.
Mario Kart,
the Mario games themselves, Star Fox, the Metroid Prime Hunters game thing that was on there, Picto Chat.
Yep, Picto Chat, like, drawing dicks to each other.
Dude, like playing wireless, like very vivid memory for me was going on the Disney performing arts trip for our high school and playing like yeah, like Mario Kart or drawing dicks in the Picto chat on the shuttle buses,
Uh-huh.
right? Um, you know, if we were lucky and if the buses were kind of close to each other, we could even play with the person on the other bus. It was wild, man. Like the little local area network that they were doing was crazy for what it was. The last Pokemon game that I played was on this console, Diamond and Pearl. Some really fun Mario spin-off side games and remakes slash re-releases, right? I know I was trying to keep the biases of the re-releases on these because I mentioned Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, right, on the 3DS. But, you know, I had Mario 64 DS on here, which was sick because you get to play as Wario, Yoshi, and Luigi.
Do I have any DS games? Hold on. Let me go check if I have any DS games here with me.
Go for it. I want to see, like, was... Neo, the World Ends With You. I want to say if that was on the DS or not. I don't recall. But yeah, just like a lot of really fun games on here that go. You found some of your stuff?
Nope, I don't have anything. No, but I
Okay.
was just going to agree with you. Shout out to Pokemon Conquest, which is one of the coolest games ever. It's basically Nobunaga's ambition with Pokemon.
Oh,
really
that was
sick.
that game. Yeah. I was
Yep.
very confused on what the hell that game was
Yep.
growing up because I was like, I see it's very anime, but they're samurais, and I was like,
Yep.
what's happening here?
Yeah, really sick. The new Super Mario Brothers was a lot of fun, if it not super duper easy, but it was still a lot of fun. I really had a good time with that. Trying to think of a couple other non-Pokemon DS games that I
Rhythm
really
Heaven.
played.
Rhythm Heaven on the DS
Yeah.
is very, very fun. That had Beyonce in the commercial.
Did it? Oh my god!
Yeah, like there's a little three guys that like scream slash sing. The little crudely drawn guys with the bow ties on them.
Yeah. No, the DS was crazy. Like everybody, DS was like the precursor to the Wii, which I figure we're going to talk about in a little bit. Where everybody kind of had one. Hardcore gamers, casual gamers. Like your grandma had it for Brain Age.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, the Ace Attorney games were on there.
Oh,
that
yeah,
was, that was
Ace
my
Attorney.
introduction to Ace Attorney games.
Yep.
Because I played 1, 2, and 3 on there. Barring
Yeah, I had
luckily,
Miles Edgeworth.
luckily I didn't have that in my DS when I lost it because the game would have killed me for it. But I had I also like again like a close to console like experience. My first one that I can kind of argue for. Kingdom Hearts 358 2 days. I know that like a lot of people kind of
God.
clown on that Kingdom Hearts game, but that one genuinely felt like, whoa, I'm playing like a PS2 level game on my handheld. You know what I mean? It's kind of that experience of being like, okay, this is my first little taste of like having a true, not port, but you know, again, very similar experience if I was playing it, kind of thing. But that was really, you know, kind of pushing the hardware essentially at that point too.
Yeah.
But
Sonic
yeah,
also
you know.
had a good showing on this. The Sonic RPG was
Oh,
really sick.
what was that one? Sonic Chronicles? Yeah,
Yep.
which you and I both talked about because that has the touchscreen kind of like Osu style gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
Kind of like
Fantastic.
how South Park kind of does like the movements to do the attacks and all that. I thought that was pretty sick.
Yeah. And again, also because this console, again, I tried not to be biased with this in terms of like the backwards compatibility, but yeah, backwards compatibility.
Right, you could play Game Boy Advance games, and often like they had games, especially like the Pokemon games did it. But there were games where if you had the Game Boy Advance of the same series and you played the DS game, new things unlocked, and that was exclusive to the DS Lite and the original DS because obviously the DSi took the Game Boy Advance cartridge out. So.
Yeah. Because that was when they were trying to make the push into having like a digital library.
Yep.
Which we'll talk about a little bit I think for my next game console as well too.
Cool.
Okay, so is your number 4 now?
My number 4 is the original Xbox.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
you actually put it on there.
Yeah, man. No, I was when I finally got my original Xbox, that was kind of it because now this is the system where I played like everything on because of Xbox Live. So Halo 2, obviously we've talked about how much I played Halo 2 back in the day. This is where I played NFL 2K5, Madden 07, NBA 2K5, like Capcom vs. SNK, the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection. This is really like the first system where I started playing online competitively. And I spent so much time with this system on just playing in, you know, the football game franchise modes, playing online fighting games, playing like, God, anything you can think of was on this system. This was kind of like that first jump into how my gaming tastes evolved in the future. Started with the original Xbox. So for me, like, it has to be up here. Also, again, this is like the first step of like the modern controller. You know, they didn't figure out, hey, maybe we should have put these black and white buttons up top. But it was that first kind of like that S controller was definitely like that first modern controller.
Yeah,
And,
ignoring the Duke.
it wasn't for me, but
yeah.
I
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Moving past the Duke to the Xbox S controller on the original Xbox, yeah, we're talking about a pretty modernized controller.
Yeah, man. For me, you know, the original Xbox kind of planted the seed for what the 360 would end up becoming for me. So it has to be up here, and I still have it at home. God, that system, and that's like the same system that I've had my whole life, and I'm sure I could just fire it right up and everything would be fine. I just have to set the date and whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe I should do that just because I want to see all the save data and reminisce.
Yeah, I remember ripping a lot of music to the Xbox
Yes.
itself. That was
the
thing.
other cool thing, is that you could rip music, and then a lot of the games had support where you could play your ripped music in your game. So like every time, it's so funny. So every time NFL 2K5 would start like a game, you know, you start a football game, you usually have like this high octane kind of opening song.
Yeah.
Roses from Outkast would always play. I don't know why, but it was always Roses. So it had like that piano in the beginning, and I'm like, seriously?
Don't get me wrong, banger of a song.
Banger.
But like
that whole album, banger.
I personally, I don't think it belongs on.
That's not
2K.
a football song. I don't know why 2K kept on putting it there, but it did.
I mean, want to say it was 2K 2006 had Newfound Glory on there with This Disaster.
That would be Madden, because the year after 2K5 came out, Madden like bought that shit because they didn't want to get their ass kicked again.
Yeah, but
which is bullshit.
But that thing, I remember that one. I was like, oh, I'll play the music for a little bit and get some of the stuff out there, and then eventually, just play my shit on there.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's something that we don't get anymore with sports games. Is like like those soundtracks. You talked about Tony Hawk before.
Yeah,
those soundtracks were incredible.
Yeah, the fact that like the game would still play its audio, but your music, was
pretty sick.
Was very cool, right? It's kind of cool that they found a way to make the audio files kind of play nicely with your console.
It was also my DVD player because my PlayStation 2 broke.
True.
And couldn't read anything but the silvered bottom games.
Yeah, that was an issue with the PS2 consoles.
Yeah. And that's why you're not going to see it on my list. But it doesn't mean Sony's shut out.
Yeah, the Xbox, I think for me, in regards to the online play, I didn't get to experience it.
Right.
Aside from like going to like Zach's house or Nate's house.
Yeah.
Because they had that like secondary, like underground online setup.
X-Connect.
Right?
Let's go. X-Connect.
So I didn't get to experience that a lot in my own household because our internet wasn't that great.
I was going to say, you had like booty internet connection for like 15 years.
For a long time, yeah. But I had a fuck ton of TVs in my place. So I
do remember the LAN parties.
My place became like the LAN party house. Like, because I had the space for it. We would just set up 4 TVs, 4 consoles. I think one time we even did like a full 16 console setup at one point.
Damn.
Yeah.
You want to do that again one of these days?
We should. We really should just have like an OG style setup one. Even like, because even like when I used to go to my friend's house, like we had all moved to laptops and stuff like that, right? We still had to we could like hook up to the internet of like someone's house who had like they had like full on networking style setup kind of thing in their place,
right?
And we're like, this is great playing League together, like in the same room, right?
Oh God, I've talked to you about that too.
Playing Counter Strike, right?
Yep.
And then like I remember talking with like some of my older friends, like we used to bring our PCs out of our house and get yelled at by our parents to bring it to someone's home. It's a very different experience, and I'm like, I'm kind of glad I didn't join that part. But I do remember having tried to lug around like a small CRT in my backseat. And that was also not fun. But I did it for the game. You did it for the friends and the experiences.
I used to get shit for bringing an arcade stick places. Now, to be fair, my first arcade stick, but the Kanba was humongous.
Oh well, those were massive back in the day. That's why.
Right. But like, forget bringing like a whole TV to somebody's house. Forget it.
Yeah.
All right. What's your number 3?
Okay. My number 3. This is the one that officially breaks the rule. The Nintendo Wii, because it also plays GameCube games.
Yep. To be fair, we spend a lot of time with that Wii.
We did.
That sounds dirty, but I mean, a little bit. It's true.
I mean, ayo. But
ayo.
Ayo, pause. But yeah, we played a lot of Brawl. I know.
Yeah, we did.
Arguably the worst of the Smash games, right?
But it came out the summer between high school and college. So
yeah, it was so
whatever
fun.
It was, we were gonna play it.
We had a lot of free time. We were playing the fuck out of it. Like the Mario and Sonic the Olympic Games shit, you know what I mean? Like those mini games where it's just all sus motions with the Wiimote.
What was the other? Oh, the Mega Man, the WiiWare games. We played a ton of.
Yes, yeah. Like a lot of WiiWare stuff. Obviously Wii Sports. Wii Sports Resort.
Did we play a lot of Wii Sports? I don't really remember. I played Wii Sports with like my family.
I played a lot of Wii Sports with Gabe, and like especially if it's like it's already in there. Fuck it, I'll play a round of bowling or tennis or something. You know what I mean? The boxing one was obviously like pretty popular in terms of mobile games anyway. Or the movement gimmick, right? So that was I know a lot of people didn't like the movement gimmick of the game console, but it created very fun experiences. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for the games that needed it, it was fun. Yeah, for Donkey Kong to have to fucking flip my controller up every time I wanted to do a barrel roll, it sucked.
Kind of annoying, yeah.
But
I mean, like,
Wii Sports was fun.
Yeah, it was still very good. Mario Galaxy was on the Wii. And that is like I think still like one of my favorite experiences in terms of like a Mario 3D platformer.
It's a shame on me game. Like I missed it. So I will tell my story about the Wii before we wrap this up because it is a funny story. But I missed a lot of the other games outside of Brawl on the Wii, unfortunately. I ended up picking them up afterward to play, and then I had a kid. So that's not gonna fucking happen.
Also having like light gun style games on a modern TV, right? Because at this point we no longer had CRTs. Everyone had a LCD TV. I don't think OLEDs were really a thing yet. We still had plasmas, kind of, holding on for dear life around this time.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's no longer CRT, we couldn't use a lot of the light gun equipment anymore, or we had to use something that had a sensor, right?
Yep.
But here, yeah, sure, it's a little bit different because you have to have a reticle on screen at all times, but it's close. And I'm like, I'll take it. And there's kind of overlap here between the Wii U, right, in terms of like game experiences, right? If I talk about like House of the Dead, I'm pretty sure that was on Wii U, not on Wii. Same with Ghost Squad, right? I may be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure that was on Wii U, not the Wii. But
no, they were both on Wii. I'm pretty sure
they're both on Wii. Okay, so there we go. So those games, like having like those old school arcade shooters and have like an at home experience. Again, not exactly the same, but it's close. I'll take it.
Yeah, right.
The Metroid Prime collection was on here where they because Metroid Prime 3 was made for the Wii, but they had the collection where they had 1 and 2 remade from the GameCube into the Wii with motion controllers, which gets rid of the initial slowness of the GameCube versions because you have to stand still and aim. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, I know. So I never played those games, so they're all you.
Yeah, so having just the reticle be on screen at all times because it's reacting to the Wiimote makes the slow kind of like nervousness of that game kind of go away.
Right.
Also, Nintendo making the mistake of not calling the Wii controller the Wiimote. I remember that was a thing, right? Like they didn't patent the name. So
really?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, you will always see Wii controller on like everything because they did not get the name Wiimote, and if I remember correctly, some guy just did it so that they couldn't.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and this is going to be a semi-controversial one, I'm assuming, for anyone who's a die-hard fan of this game. I think the Resident Evil 4 on the Wii is the best version of the game until the remake came out.
Whoa.
Yeah, because again, it gets rid of the slow, awkward aiming.
Mm-hmm.
Because a big thing that annoyed me on Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube and the PS2, but I mostly played on the GameCube, was if you're ADSing or you're aiming with the laser sight, right, in the game, you see the laser sight moving left and right. Like your shot can technically go off target because of Leon swaying. So in here, you get rid of that initial awkward slowness of like having to stand still, aim, and then hopefully use the crappy little nipple nubby right on the GameCube controller.
Right, right.
And just aim it yourself. Sure, again, you have to. It can be annoying that you're moving around yourself and doing it, but I think it's like one of the best ways to actually play Resident Evil 4. Yeah,
there you go. You're gonna make news. Someone's gonna clip this, and they're gonna yell at you.
Yeah, probably. That's perfectly fine. I've defended this statement for years, and I've actually found out that one of my friends argued the same thing, and I was like, sick. I'm not crazy.
Right? You're not alone in the world.
As long as I have one person with me on this, I'm cool with it. But yeah, that was my number 3. What about you?
Okay. Are you ready for this? I don't think you're ready for this one. This one's going to blow your fucking mind. Just based on my list so far.
Yeah.
The PSP.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, man. You talk about a system I spent a lot of time with. It's this bad boy right here.
Okay.
So I had a PSP 1000. It fell off the truck. My cousin got it. He had it for like a week. And he's like, hey, you want it? I'm like, yeah. And then, sure enough, man, I played the shit out of that thing. And I played everything. I remember going to the GameStop, talking to the 2 guys that used to work there. I got Darkstalkers. It was my first time playing Darkstalkers. I thought it was awesome. NFL Street I had. Loved it.
Yeah.
And then I must have played hours upon hours of this Naruto game. Naruto, what is it? Fuck, man.
Like one of the Storm games? Like
like one of like the Ultimate Ninja
Fighters.
Rampage games. And dude, I played the shit out of Ninja Heroes 3, I'm pretty sure it was.
Okay, there you go.
I played the ever-loving shit out of that game. And also that thing was like an awesome media player. I remember watching like South Park, 12 Ounce Mouse, I would put on there. I had the UMD movies. I had like Happy Gilmore and I had another movie. I don't remember what it was, but I do remember I had Happy Gilmore, so I watched it on my PSP. And then of course, this is the first gaming system where you could watch porn.
Yeah. That giving a device that has a web browser to a bunch of high schoolers had some side consequences, basically.
Yep. So spent a lot of time with the PSP.
Yep, I'm sure you did. That's why I never borrowed it from you. Glad I never borrowed it from you.
No.
I was also a late adopter of the PSP. Gabe had one, but this is one of the consoles that Gabe was like not willing to share.
Probably it's not fucking awesome.
Probably not because of the porn. But
that too. Yeah. Well, but if he had it on there, which back then we were naive, but like now you wouldn't do that. But yeah, probably you're right.
But you had a web browser, so I remember that. So, but I think. Because I think he had like a limited edition one. I think he had like the white sparkle one of the Assassin's Creed version. I don't think he ever had the Assassin's Creed game on the PSP, but it was the white sparkle paint one. It looked like the gloss of like a car. You know what I mean?
So it took me, I'm looking through PSP games, it took me 3 pages to get to a game that I actually had, and it's SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, which I talked about at the Wrestling Games draft with Andrew. Mm-hmm. Oh, and Street Fighter Alpha 3, that's right, there was a Street Fighter Alpha 3 port that I played the ever-loving shit out of, too. So, I mean, just, you talk about a system that had, and you could play PS1 classics on this. So I had Fighting Force on here, I had a couple of other PS1 games I remember. Dissidia, Final Fantasy, I played on this. I'm just going through and just kind of remembering all of these games. You see kind of a theme here. Like I played a lot of fighting games. I played a lot of sports games on these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I watched a lot of porn.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Yeah, and again, shit. Like I missed out on Dissidia. Was there a no? That was on the Vita. Birth by Sleep was the Kingdom Hearts.
There were Kingdom Hearts games on here. I never played them, but there were Kingdom Hearts.
Okay, there was one. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was then. But again, I was a late adopter, so I was able to acquire a PSP 1000 recently through a friend of a friend. Yeah, because he was clearing out some of his stuff. I was able to open it up. I had to repair the charge plug on it. But I finally have it. Now it's in my hands. It's kind of cool to have one. You know what I mean? I have bought a couple of cheap UMDs from like garage sales and stuff like that. And you know, it's like the Daxter game, right? Yeah. It was on there. I just thought that like I never got to play until I would borrow my brother's one whenever he left for the military, right? So it's like, oh man, I missed out on like Peace Walker. Metal Gear
Yep.
Acid, the Acid games.
Yep.
I was like, man, I just missed that because Gabe just wouldn't share. He just would not let me borrow this console. Again, probably due to the extreme amounts of porn he was watching on it. But yeah, the PSP is a cool console. It had the little flat nubby, which we got to experience later on in like the 2DS and the 3DS era. It was a cool console. It really was. I just remember hearing people using it more as a media player than they actually used it as a game
Right.
device. Though, like I remember our friend Matt he bought like this little carrying case that also had a set of speakers in it.
Yeah.
And that thing was fucking loud. And we used to use that, like, you know, when we were in high school wrestling, waiting for the fucking bus for a 5 a.m. tournament. Just us sitting, like, you know, in the corner of the wrestling room, like on the mats, just like vibing. You know what I mean? Like we're tired. We're like listening to some like Event Sevenfold or some Breaking Benjamin.
Oh my god.
Or like Bullet for My Valentine, just to like, you know, stay awake kind of thing. But also not be too hyped up because we know we have a whole day of wrestling to go through. So we would just be sitting there vibing to like music and shit on there, and it was really cool because they had a lot of cool like third-party devices that it would like add on to.
Yeah,
But,
man.
yeah, the PSP is dope. It was really
Love this
cool.
thing. I'm about to go find another one, man. I know every retro gaming handheld and system is like $1 billion, but I want one.
I think the PSPs are still relatively okay because there was a lot of them out on the market.
Yeah.
At least in comparison to the Vita.
Yep. Okay.
But yeah,
number
very
2.
cool. Number 2.
Which one's yours?
Snake. We're doing Snake.
Oh, you want me to go again? Okay.
Yeah.
So my number 2 is the N64. Just
okay.
again, you know, talk about systems you spent a lot of time with. I spent a lot of time with this. Again, kind of like the first or like the next step in my journey, kind of after I got the first system that I owned. Lot of first party Nintendo games. Obviously, Super Mario 64 factored in pretty heavily. The Pokemon Stadium games, Donkey Kong 64. Oh, I forgot to tell my Wii story. My Wii story is funny.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, so just kind of patches in. So I got the Wii late after everybody else got it, and it was kind of like in November when like summer was over. We were in the throes of college and all of that, and like we all kind of stopped playing Brawl. So it kind of was like the joke was like it's Kyle getting the Okama Game Sphere from South Park.
Oh,
where,
yeah, okay.
Where everybody gets the Game Sphere and then Kyle gets it and then nobody's playing it. That was kind of like was kind of like my Wii experience. So I'm like, wait, fuck. I bought this thing and now nobody's playing it anymore. So then I just played more 360.
So you just had the Wii. It became a glorified like paperweight basically right off the bat.
Just about.
Yeah. I mean, there was that it happens, right? Where it, you know, I said it before. It happened for me for the DS, right? Where like I missed out on a lot of the early stuff, but luckily the DS had a pretty decent life cycle, so we were still, you know, enjoying playing like Mario Kart together. You know, if we were going out or doing something. But yeah, I get you. Being kind of late to the bus on these consoles, especially in that generation where it was very competitive. Understandable where if something loses our attention, we are off to the next thing, especially around that time.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, sorry. So back to N64. So obviously you had the Nintendo first party games. You had the boom of wrestling games on here. So obviously as a young professional wrestling fan, I really, you know, obviously loved it. So you had, you know, World Tour Revenge, No Mercy, WrestleMania 2000. Trying to think what else. NFL Blitz was on here. I loved NFL Blitz. I wanted NFL Blitz for my birthday. My cousins got me Madden 2000 instead. Was very upset. Still don't have Blitz to this day. Trying to think of just some other kinds of games here.
GoldenEye, Perfect Dark.
I have a take on GoldenEye.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not a good game.
It was never good. It was never fun. It was never fun, especially because the first time I played GoldenEye was after Halo came out.
So you had to go back for that one.
Yeah, and I'm like, God, this sucks. I played a lot of Turok Dinosaur Hunter.
Oh, Turok, yeah, there's a good game on there. The Donkey Kong game, Banjo-Kazooie.
I liked Banjo-Kazooie. I just never owned it. Like I would rent Banjo-Kazooie and like play it.
Not until I was older when I found a copy for cheap.
Yeah, man.
But I would borrow from the Pathmark.
Yeah, Conker's the Path. Conker's Bad
Fur Day, massive. Obviously.
Yeah, man. I played a lot. I tried to play a lot of that.
For me, it was like Legend of Zelda. That was a big thing for me. I loved Majora's Mask. I think I said it before that I think Majora's Mask is better than Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I played Ocarina of Time. I didn't really play Majora's Mask, but I'm not really like the biggest
Hmm.
Zelda guy. Oh, the Pokemon Snap, like the other Pokemon games were
Yeah,
cool.
the spin-offs were fun.
And then like Mario Party came out on this, so
Oh yeah,
obviously another one was Wave Race. My cousins had Wave Race and
hell
Mario
yeah, Wave
Kart,
Race.
so like really good racing games. F-Zero was on here, never played it.
Cruising USA was the one
Hmm.
that I played a lot of.
Star Fox, obviously, Star Fox 64 was incredible. This
Excite
is
Bike was on there.
this is also where the first Paper Mario was on, and I thought that was really sweet because it
Hmm.
was kind of like the first RPG that I really played a lot that wasn't Pokemon. So I thought that was
Okay.
pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. The
all in
N64
all,
was a great console. Like I didn't put it on my list because again at the time I was playing a lot more of the PS1. Like I would play the N64 because it had the 4 ports right
yep,
built into the console, and also our van. Like the
yeah, I
big
remember the van.
the we still have it right. That had built-in ports next to the seats as like extenders for
Hell yeah,
it was like literally made for the N64 to be plugged into the console next to the TV in the van.
that's so sick.
So we played a lot of it, but eventually we were like, my brother and I played we just played more PS1 than we did on the N64. But definitely when we had multiple friends over, we would bust out the N64 because it just made more sense to get people into playing. Right, it's easier to get a rotation with 4 than it is with 2, and we have 6 to 8 of us hanging out. But yeah, they had some very good like multiplayer experiences on the N64, and I think that kind of like shined with that console. Um, the collectathon platformers were very good in that
Hmm.
game. Kind of like why I still enjoy that kind of gameplay. I know a lot of people kind of got tired of it, but they were really good. They were just really well designed games. And like luckily Nintendo's kind of like embraced that and still does those games. Right,
Thankfully,
we look at like Odyssey and stuff like that. But there are also like smaller developers that make these types of games, and still again that love was instilled in me because of the N64.
hmm agreed.
Yeah, absolutely, very cool.
Go for it. You're number 2.
My number 2 is the PS2.
Okay.
Yep. Uh, man, just in terms of like experiences or games on there, Grand Theft Auto 3, San Andreas, Tekken 4, Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, God
Yeah.
of War 1 through 3, Jack and Daxter series, Guitar Hero 2 and 3, the better ones. We don't talk about Guitar Hero 1. Guitar Hero 1 was kind of rough.
Yeah, it was.
Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, the original ones, right? The Onimusha games, the Max Payne games. There was just so many of these like. So while I mentioned before, like the PS1 was my first experience with more mature games, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it just missed the list though because again like I didn't really understand what the hell I was doing or appreciating them until I got older. So when I was playing the PS1 as a kid, I didn't really understand a lot of the themes and the ideas of the stories. I was just kind of like playing because ooh shiny lights and shooting people or
Yeah.
smacking people around, right? I just enjoyed them for the gameplay. But then my maturation was vital to really understanding the experience of what I was actually playing around this time. Because this would have been like, late middle school, early high school, right? Because the PS2 lasted a long, long time.
Oh my god, forever. Kind of like the
Yeah.
360. It kind of was
Yeah,
just always around and always had games
exactly.
releasing for it.
So, even in like the point of our lives in like, mid to late high school when the PS3, the 360, and the Wii was out, I still would like go back to play PS2 games on the PS3 or on the PS2 itself. Like, just so many of these games had like very, very fun gameplay loops, and again, more mature storylines that I was actually understanding now, right?
Hmm.
Um, we're talking about like Metal Gear 2 as well as on here, Metal Gear 3. Uh, yeah, just fantastic library of games. The SOCOM games are really good. Again, though, around the same thing with the Xbox, I didn't have the internet access. Right,
Yep.
it wasn't great.
Same. I never played this
So
online.
I missed out on a lot of the bigger experiences of playing, like Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, or fighting games. Like having Tekken 4 online would have been great.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I think there was a Resistance game on the PS2, if I remember correctly.
Well, me.
Again, I would have liked to have that experiences, but then I eventually did get that experience on the PS3 because the PS3 was backwards compatible, and it just hooked up to the network of like the PS2 games that were still around. It was kind of cool, like plugging in Star Wars Battlefront 2 and popping into the PS3 and seeing that there's still like an active player base on that game. It was kind of wild.
That is pretty crazy. Yeah. Because I mean, people loved PS2 worldwide, right?
Yeah.
And especially like in Mexico, Brazil, and Japan, like these three countries besides the U.S. basically like kept this thing alive for longer than it probably should have.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a really cool system. I had kind of like two kind of phases with the PS2, right? So I had like the initial phase of the PS2. I bought like Gran Turismo. I brought like the Gran Turismo Bundaroo because it's like, hey, at least we get a game with it, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't really a fan of it, but I played it. I had Marvel 2 the first time on PS2, so that was kind of like basically my Marvel 2 machine was the PS2. I remember playing like the SmackDown, the wrestling games, and then kind of going back when I was a few years older and getting like that's where I got Disgaea, the RPG, like the strategy.
Oh yeah, Disgaea, that game rules.
It's so sick. Like they're so cool. I never finished it. I don't know. I forget what came out and like knocked me off course on it.
That's usually what happened when we were younger. Yeah.
But I love those games, and I wish I played them. I wish I had more time to play those games because they're really funny. They're really charming. And also my PS2 flex is I have at my house the gold Gundam PS2 from Japan.
Whoa.
With like one of the Gundam games on it. It is so sick.
I've never even seen it, man. I gotta come over and
show it. It's so sick. I love this thing so much. It's just sitting in my closet at home. Somebody tried to trade it in a GameStop. I saw the Gundams. I saw the PS2. I was like, I will just buy this from you. I don't care.
Yeah, I'll pay you more than what the store's going to give you.
Yeah, man. Sure. Well, the store wouldn't even take it.
Oh,
so,
really?
like, because it's a Japanese PlayStation 2.
True. Yeah,
and this is before, obviously, the gaming boom, like, blows up. So, like, I'm sure I can get good money for that system now, but, like, I don't know if I want to sell it.
Absolutely.
It looks cool.
Yeah, that's a collector piece at that point.
Yeah, right?
But yeah, again, a lot of mature games that I actually understand what the hell I was doing in these games, right? A lot of games. This is around the time of the first start of like the action-y kind of like Max Payne, Dead to Rights, Streets of LA games, Streets of New York games, right? I think I played Def Jam on the PS2.
Yeah, you could have.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I played Def Jam on PS2.
Yep. All right, number one.
So that's my number two. And my number one is going to be the Nintendo Switch.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think I was trying to argue with myself. I was like, is this like a recency bias thing? But I don't
think so.
I don't think so. Because for me, I mentioned before, the Steam Deck was on my honorable mentions list, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Nintendo Switch was the first home console experience in your hands. And this changed gaming for me. I got this a year late because it came out in 2017, right? 2017?
Yeah.
So I got in 2018, late 2018. I got fired in October. So I said, well, I got free time now. Also, I have money saved up because I had made a bunch of sales in September because back to school rush. So I had a little bit extra cash on me.
Hell yeah.
So I said, fuck it. I'm going to buy the Smash one.
Nice.
So I bought the one, I have the Smash dock. It has the Joy-Cons have the Smash logo on it. The back had nothing on it, but eventually the back panel cracked, so I replaced it with like a new one. Right, it's still my OG Switch, just replaced the back panel. I like no-lifed Breath of the Wild for 2 days. It overheated. It died on me.
Oh my god.
And then I was like, I'm like addicted. And at this point, I'm addicted to Breath of the Wild, right? Because like, I was walking Pete, and I'd have my Switch in my hands, I'd play with him in the backyard, kicking the ball around. Switch is still in my hands.
Nice.
I could not put this thing down. Breath of the Wild, Odyssey, just like those were just those two games I got hundreds of hours out of. And then if I wanted to, not play it on my sofa and actually sit in front of my computer or in front of my TV and play it, I could. I just throw it on there, get a Pro Controller. Obviously, Smash Ultimate was massive for me because I love the Smash games as like a fun fighting game experience. Obviously, you can argue what kind of level of fighting game it is, but it was very, very fun. It got very technical, right? Not as technical as like Melee, obviously, but it got pretty deep in terms of like the player base being like so active into it. Kirby: The Forgotten Land is probably like my favorite Kirby game now because of it. And so many games that came out on the Wii U or the 3DS but were stuck on those consoles eventually got ported and got second wins on the Switch, right? The World Ends With You came out on the Switch. Mario Kart uh, got ported over. Super Mario 3D World got ported over, right? And that was like one of my favorite games on the Wii U. And I was like, man, if only anyone else had the Wii U aside from me. But you know, we got to experience some of like those gems that got kind of trapped on the previous console, at least, you know, on the console that everyone actually bought.
Yeah.
Mario Maker was a big deal for me because on the Wii U, and I was like, man, I wish this would come out on another console because Mario Maker was dope. It's Infinite Mario, and it eventually did. Mario Maker 2 came out on the Switch, and I was like, this is sick. This is awesome.
Yep.
And again, it's just the experience of having it, again, this was a Steam Deck for me before the Steam Deck came out. You know, it was a fantastic indie machine. I bought Hades on it after I already bought it on PC. I bought what else did I buy multiple times? You know what I mean? Like Slay the Spire, like all these games that I bet Cryptid and Echo Dancer, I would buy them again just so I can have with me on the go. And that's the thing too, right? Because it is so small and so skinny. It is so easy for me to bring around, just kind of toss into a bag versus my Steam Deck. I mean, I'm a big enough dude. I'll bring the Steam Deck with me. I don't really care. You know what I mean? I'm a big dude. It doesn't bother me in terms of weight, but for everybody else, it's like it's so easy to throw into like a purse, right, or like a small backpack or a sling or something. And it is actually like a genuinely like a social console, right? You could play Mario with somebody in tabletop mode, give them the other Joy-Con. Yeah, it feels terrible to play with just the Joy-Con, but you can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's a big deal. I've even played Apex on that thing. You know what I mean? Like if I was like out on a trip, right? Like I brought it with me on planes, on road trips, on day trips and weekend trips, on the subway in New York. You know what I mean? Like it's so easy to bring around and really gave me that handheld experience that I've been looking for. And I didn't realize I was looking for it until it came out. You know what I mean? Like, remember I said before, the 2DS and the 3DS and the DS had like a touch of that like experience, usually where they're a little bit cut down, right? But the 2DS and 3DS started getting more console like full console experience games on there. The Switch was that first look into like, oh no, this is a full-on console experience in the palm of my hands, and it is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think it changed the game in terms of like how people actually look at gaming, right? Oh yes, sure, it's super underpowered, right, in comparison to like the PS4 and the Xbox One, and you know, technically it's transversing the generation, right? With the PS5 and the Xbox series of consoles. Yes, it's very underpowered, but the experience of some of the games that Nintendo does to make those games really, really fun, like, you know, it easily just beats out graphics and pure, you know, GPU and CPU performance of these games sometimes.
Yeah,
like, it's just a very, very good console. And again, gave me that proper gaming experience that I wanted in my hands, and again, eventually led for me to like committing to the Steam Deck as like a handheld console.
Yeah, no, it's a special piece of hardware, right? Like you talk about, you go through some of these consoles that kind of revolutionized gaming. You talk about, you know, the PS2, the, you know, Xbox Live, the DS, adding the second screen. The Switch is like the next system to kind of change the game. No pun intended, right?
Yeah.
And for me, and like our two experiences are completely different, right? So like a lot of what I played on the Switch outside of like the Nintendo first party games were like either, you know, smaller independent games or the retro games, right? Because for me it was just an easy place to play all these games that I love again, right?
Yeah.
So, but now, like, you know, I played a ton, you know, I missed out on the Wii U. So I played Super Mario U on the Switch. I played Super Mario 3D Land and Bowser's Fury on the Switch. I played, you know, I just got Animal Crossing, right? So playing that. The Pokemon games, so like Pokemon Arceus is incredible. Like if you even tangentially like Pokemon, you need to play Arceus. Like
I've heard good things about the experience.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It is really fantastic. I played a butt ton of Pokemon Sword because I loved doing like the raids. I thought that was really cool. I played Dauntless on this because it was easily portable for me to play. You know, I ended up getting Monster Hunter, but then you know I had a kid,
Yeah.
so
But
there goes
Dauntless,
that.
free Monster Hunter game,
Yeah.
basically. So it was cool.
Yep.
And I think it was crossplay.
Oh yeah. You could play with anybody. You could play with anybody on any console.
Yeah. And like surprisingly, Nintendo was pretty okay with a lot of crossplay stuff. Surprisingly, right? Because I think I think for Fortnite, like those as an example, they were like, okay, we'll do it with phones, but we wouldn't do it initially with like PS4 and Xbox consoles due to the way the game runs. But they were like, yeah, we'll do it. You know what I mean? Well, like it was kind of a thing they just allowed to happen. I think Rocket League as well too was a big thing, right? They just let it happen right off the bat. They did almost no fight from Epic.
Yep.
I think Apex is still holding out on it. I think they because I think it's just there's a massive disadvantage I think for the players on Switch versus on PC and all the other consoles. And I think the network is a little bit different for them to work with.
Yeah,
But you know,
I wouldn't play a competitive game on Switch if like it was crossplay.
yeah. But in terms of like but the virtual console or not the virtual console, Nintendo Switch Online, like the subscription games, right? Like having the NES, SNES, Genesis now.
Yeah,
right?
now
Game Boy games.
we ponied up. We have all the other stuff.
N64.
Yeah, I've been playing a ton of the N64 when I have a chance. Like I've just been playing Mario Kart 64 again.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet.
I went through a bunch of the side scroller beat 'em ups. You know, like when they kept adding them, they just kept adding more and more. And I'm like, I've never heard of this game, and this box art is ugly as shit. I'm sure this game is fun as fuck.
Right,
There's a reason why they added it on here. You know, so I was like, I just started playing a bunch of them, and they're great. And just as an experience, the Nintendo Switch genuinely changed how I was thinking about video games because I have a pretty decent, you know, upper midline PC, right? I had a PS4, I had an Xbox One, I sold it, and it's just like, oh, you know, graphics and performance, and you know, I went from a mid tier card to an upper mid tier card to a top tier card of a couple years ago to now like a newer version of that card, right? I'm like graphics, and then it's like, oh no, never mind. Experience, the gameplay experience is like the most important thing because even then, like Nintendo does a very good job of like art direction, right? That's the reason why a lot of their games feel kind of evergreen and look kind of evergreen because it's not just graphics. You know, you look at Wind Waker and it still looks very good to this day, right? Mario Odyssey still looks amazing. Breath of the Wild has a very beautiful kind of like art tone to it, like a pastel painting kind of thing going on to with it. And yeah, like they still look very good, and Tears of the Kingdom even more so. It's just, you know, Nintendo. And it sucks because like I get so annoyed when they do like anti-consumer bullshit, right? But I'm like, fuck, their games are so good,
right? And they've this generation kind of changed a little bit of that, right? They didn't just let games be stuck for the most part on the Switch, right?
Yeah.
They brought, or on the Wii U, I'm sorry. They brought games over to the Switch.
Yeah. They tried to bring back some of the experiences that people clearly loved on the previous console to the newer console. They tried. But I mean, it's obviously still very locked down, still very Nintendo. We're not going to deny that. But the Nintendo Switch genuinely was a massive change in terms of how I look and experience gaming. I remember like when my friends, because again, I got it about a year and a half late. My friends all got it. I remember, you know, playing Mario Kart with like, you know, a full 8 of us with 3 Switches or whatever. And I was like, this is sick. Like, this is such a very specific experience that I never thought we'd experience to this day. You know what I mean?
It's pretty sweet.
We were like at my friend's house for Thanksgiving or something, and they all just busted out Switches and shit, and you know, just tabletop mode, give each other a Joy-Con, and just start going. And I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, man.
And I remember initially people were like, kind of like, oh, this is a dumb gimmick, whatever. You know, it's not going to be a good thing for the console. No one's actually going to do this. You know what I mean? And then immediately everyone started doing exactly what the commercials were doing.
Yep.
But yeah, that was great for me.
Pretty sweet.
Okay, for your number one, let's go ahead and finish it off.
It's like a complete spoiler if you were listening. It's the Super Nintendo.
Yep, there we go.
So like most of my favorite games are on this system. This was like, you never forget your first, right? Yeah. So like for me, the Super Nintendo was really the first system that I had. Like I had an NES, but the time frame where I just had the NES to when I had the NES and the Super Nintendo is so minuscule that like basically it feels like the Super Nintendo was my first system ever.
Okay, I got you. That makes sense.
Yeah. And so, like, you figure, like, Super Mario World, the Donkey Kong games, Super Street Fighter 2, Kirby Superstar, like, we've talked about all these games in the past. They're all my, obviously my favorites. So it just makes sense that this has to be the system that I go with. I mean, I had, like, Ren and Stimpy games on here that I remember. I had, I had the game starring the mascot of, like, the 2000 Olympics, I remember. We talked about the Power Rangers beat 'em ups. We talked about the Power Rangers fighting game. We talked about the Turtles fighting game, Turtles in Time, Battletoads and Double Dragon. Like, I can just go on and on and on. And there's even games that I missed that I know I would love. But, like, to me, the Super Nintendo has everything that I've loved in my life. And, like, it has to be my number one just because of the library, the games that I still hold near and dear to my heart. And, like, the fact that I'm still, like, populating, like, I want to go above and beyond for the Super Nintendo. Just, it makes it my number one, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, just, I mentioned as well, too, like, I had a lot of, formative experiences with the SNES as well, because playing with my brother growing up. I think the difference between, yours and my experience is that, like, we had the NES and this Genesis and the SNES, and the thing is, around that time, especially as a kid, we didn't make the differences. We didn't understand the differences between the consoles. We just knew that they were just different consoles, right? And the experiences were just different, but we didn't understand why. So we just played whatever was fun. So we did a lot of bouncing back and forth between SNES, Sega, NES, and kind of playing whatever the hell we wanted. But I understandably so, if, like, this is, like, your main console, especially at the time, you're just dumping time into it. Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing too is I didn't have to share mine. So, like,
oh yeah, big deal.
That's also kind of a big deal, is, like, you had to share your system. I didn't have to share mine. So
yeah,
factor that
I remember like that was a rule for us. Like, we had to, like, argue if we wanted to buy a single player game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because, oh no, can you play with Gabe or can you play with Lahan? And it's like, no, but, like, we'll take turns. And it's like, are you going to take turns? Because, like, they knew we were just gonna argue. so we just had to, like, okay, fine, we'll buy a 2-player game. Fine, we'll figure it out.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, no, absolutely. Though, in terms of, like, single player experiences, what was the name of that cat? Bonkers the cat?
No, Bubsy.
Bubsy? Was it Bubsy that was on the SNES?
I think there were Bubsy games on.
I think there was, but I think I also played Bonkers the cat. I think that was one that I played. And I remember, like, I remember just, like, again, a lot of dumb games that were on that console,
right.
but so much just, like, gold on that console in terms of, like, gameplay experiences, right? The Super Mario All-Stars experience was a good one for me. The Kirby one was good, obviously.
Yeah, man, that's it for me. Like, it has to be the Super Nintendo. It's the system that started it all, and like I said, all my favorite games are on there, so it has to be that. You got anything else?
No, I think this is these are definitive lists. They are perfect in every way, and no one can tell us otherwise.
Well, there are lists, so if you want to do it, make your own list.
Yeah, make your own list
and send it to us.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. Put it on Twitter.
Exactly.
We should be better at the social media thing.
I'm trying.
We're just being antagonistic to our listener base.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, you don't like our list? Fuck you. How about that?
Right. Then make your own.
That's a Jersey in us. We're just like, oh, you don't like it? Fuck you.
Right,
just
move
along. I think that was it for us. I think this was a fun episode.
I agree.
You guys get to see a little bit more into how we think about video games and experience stuff. So hope you guys like this one. Again, thank you guys for listening to us for these last 2 years now we've been doing this. The show's not breaking up. We're still going.
No.
We're still going. We're still enjoying this. We're not at each other's throats yet. And, we continue to hope that you guys continue to watch us and we can continue doing these shows and, just keep spreading it out there, right?
Yeah, man.
Share our gameplay experiences and our other experiences in general and just share the love. Thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate you guys. Share us with a friend. Leave us a review. Again, guys, it's been 2 years. Please leave us a review. We'd really appreciate it.
I don't want to work anymore.
Please, we would love if this would actually make some money.
Yep.
It would be nice. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yeah.
Take care. Jujutsu Kaisen is basically the Zoomers Bleach.
Oh, okay.
While Bleach is the Millennials' Yu Yu Hakusho.